I was sitting there and I was watching YouTube videos, and it recommended this reaction channel called Not So Average Fangirl. And that was the first time after my brother's passing that I'd laughed. And then feeling inspired by how passionate she was with her reaction content. And that was what I'd always wanted to feel from my content, was that level of excitement and happiness, you know? And I remember looking at her going, this is a girl who's absolutely doing what she loves. So that was the jumping point for me. I was like, no, you know what? I think I'm going to do this.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Reactorverse Podcast. I'm very excited to be joined by today's guest. It is Mosco from her channel, We Last Reacts. Mosco, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I know you're recovering from traveling, conventions, illness, just a cavalcade of things that you've been going through over the last couple of weeks. So a lot on your plate. So I'm really grateful you managed to just find the time to be here today.
Of course. Yeah, it's always busy in the world of reactions, and you'll know that a lot.
Of course. Yeah, I found your channel earlier this year. I immediately, really fell in love with your energy and just obviously the positivity that you bring to everything that you watch. And then I saw you actually met a mutual friend of the channel, Michael from his channel Omni Media at
Yes.
Level Up Expo earlier this year. And so when I saw him taking pictures, with other people that we knew, and I saw him take a picture with you, I was like, okay, I think it's time I need to reach out and make sure we get you on here.
I'm glad you did. It's nice to finally meet you and be part of the podcast.
Of course. So yeah, I wanted to reach out and just, hear your story about, what's gone into the work, so far. You've had, a tenured career on YouTube, not just with the reaction channel, but just, in general. And I want to go over that whole experience. I like to start at the very beginning, for these things, particularly for our non-American guests. I usually like to ask, what was your background with film and TV growing up? And I guess particularly your exposure to American media growing up.
Yeah, so I grew up on a lot of American cartoons. Like, I watched, probably similar to a lot of people watching this now, I watched a lot of Disney Channel, things like Recess, Lloyd in Space. I watched a lot of Nickelodeon. It was like Hey Arnold, as told by Ginger, was my jam. The Wild
Mhm.
Thornberries, Rugrats. Oh, I loved the Rugrats. So I grew up on a lot of cartoons, and then I transitioned into Pokemon, Saturday morning cartoons, Pokemon, Dragon Ball Z, Hamtaro, that kind of thing. And then
Right.
so I've always loved cartoons, and I've grown up a lot on your media, on Japanese media. It started to transition into anime and stuff, but it was all dubbed by America. And so I always wanted to be a cartoonist, but the problem is, can't draw. Have never been particularly artistic, but I've
Right.
always loved animation, Disney movies and stuff. So, for me, it was when I was trying to decide what to do with my life, my mum was very keen that I pursue sciences, because there's money in sciences, kids. Go and be a scientist, go and become a lawyer, do these other important jobs. But eventually I dropped out of biomedical sciences, which I studied for 2 years at university. I dropped out of that course and ended up picking up television and media in college, because I'd always loved cameras. I'd always loved being in front of a camera, behind a camera, editing. I'd always kind of played with animation. I'd done AMVs on the old days of YouTube, early YouTube, where you put Lion King to Linkin Park, and
Yeah.
that was me. I was one of those people that put all those
Yeah.
videos together. And so that was how I taught myself to edit, and it was a long process. And on the days of LimeWire, downloading all your dodgy movies, but it was always
Mhm.
animated shows and movies that I worked with. Usually, always. I think there was occasional little things. I think House MD was one that I tampered with at the very early stages, but that didn't last long.
Right.
And then, yeah, from there I went to college. I did 2 years. That taught me a lot about the media world and stuff, when I realized that there's a lot of restrictions around television media,
Mhm.
and I don't really want to do that. I wanted to do my own thing. So that's
Yeah.
kind of what bled into YouTube. And at the time, it was my Scottish channel, my other channel, but that's what pushed me to finally do YouTube full time.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's so funny because I have a very similar background. It sounds like I also grew up watching a lot of cartoons, a lot of anime. I had the aspiration when I was very, very young to maybe I could do anime stuff, and I could draw well enough to copy the
Oh, okay.
artwork, of the
Better
stuff
than
I
me.
liked. Yeah. But then I also got into visual media editing specifically. I also cut my teeth doing anime music videos in the
Yep.
early YouTube days. I've said this a couple times, but yeah, when I in 2007 ish, I was like the 30th most subscribed person on YouTube because I
Oh
had like a
wow,
pretty successful channel of anime music videos.
that's
Before
so
I,
cool.
yeah, I ended up losing it to a loaded link, and then like back then there was like no recourse to like regain your channel if that happened, so I just like left it.
That's so annoying. What? I was going to say a word there that your subscribers might not like.
Yeah, it was okay though. Yeah, in hindsight, it was a good experience. But yeah, it's so funny that you're saying, television, just being somewhat restrictive and just, in many ways. So YouTube was kind of like the outlet for you. And that's like a big part of, what the content creation space is. It's like, a platform people, want to do something, but they're like the sort of current state of media has like these gateways that I can't get through, or like I don't really want to play ball with. So I'm going to try something of my own accord to try and put it out there in the world. And that's what sort of the beauty is of like these, the freedom that people can have in this space. And
Mhm.
yes, you mentioned the channel that started up, which was We Scottish Lass was the original channel, and there you focused more on skits and sort of vlog style videos, which again is like sort of like the really sort of at that time the natural progression for a lot of channels. It was like vlogging,
Mhm.
and then a lot of reactors I know now had the same experience. They started vlogging, got into reactions, so on. But before even
Yeah.
that, just like what was your sort of early exposure to YouTube in general when you found it, and like your early inspirations or influences?
Yeah, so I back in the day I was a newsgrounds girl. Like I used to me and my friends after school, that was a website we'd go and chill on, and it was all 18 plus stuff and we were not 18 plus, but
Right.
it was what you I think most of us did that back in the day. So, I remember watching like There She Is and other like little animated pieces of content media on there. There was a load of games that were very inappropriate, but we played them anyway. And a lot of little animatics as well. I remember one to that oh God, I remember so many of them. There were so many to like Coldplay songs and stuff. Like they would pick
All right.
songs and they would do their own little like claymation animation videos, and yeah. So that was started on Newsgrounds, and then I remember being at the bus stop. Gosh, waiting on the school bus, and I must have been young. I must have been about 15ish, and asking like my friends like what other I was bored, like what other websites was there, and then somebody mentioned, oh, there's a website called YouTube where you can go and watch funny videos. And that was like revolutionary back then. We didn't really have, other than Newsgrounds, you didn't really have things like that.
Right.
So I was like, oh cool, another one of these types of websites, that sounds really cool, I'll check that out after school. So after school, got home with my friends and stuff, and we went on YouTube, and you could see people were editing these videos. And I think it was either Dragon Ball Z or House. It was one of the videos that I saw that somebody had put music of the show to like
Mhm.
music, and I was like, "Oh, that's so cool! Can I do that?" And so I made an account, and then I was trying to learn like how to upload and try to teach myself. And Google was not as extensive as it is right now.
All
You
right.
don't have you didn't have a bunch of videos telling you how to do everything. That didn't exist back then, because it was like we're talking 2005 when YouTube started. We're talking very early YouTube. And so I remember being downstairs with a camcorder pointed at my TV, trying to like pause and play the the show I was watching, try to time it to the music, and it was awful until I learned about editing software and LimeWire, and so then it just progressed from there. And then I started speaking to a couple of other people who were doing animated music videos. Funnily enough, one of them is my editor today.
Oh
Um,
wow.
so her name is Annex, but back then she went by Spirit Number One, and then when her account got banned, she came back as Spirit Number One Returns. And that was her channel back then, and we all did these animated music videos, and I still keep in touch with some of the people I used to edit with back in the day. And yeah, so when I needed an editor for YouTube, like once it progressed, I called upon her. But yeah, that was very early YouTube for me, was that, and that was how I started making my accounts and bringing in the music videos, and then they started getting better, and then from there it just progressed.
Yeah, I mean, again, like I had a very similar background, just like the collaborative space of that of YouTube, and like the landscape that was available to you once you got into it. I'm curious, what program did you use to learn editing?
It was Windows Movie Maker.
Okay,
It
okay.
was old school. You had one timeline, man. You had to make that shit count. Like one
Yeah,
timeline, one audio track, you were fucked.
yeah. That same. I used iMovie on Apple, and the same exact
Hey.
thing. One timeline, one track for everything. So you had to be really creative with some of the transitions and what you can do
Yeah.
with it.
And I didn't even know there was a split button. I didn't know there was a button in there that you could just press, it would split your footage. So what I was doing, and I shit you not, I was sitting there with a bit of blue tack and I would mark like where various points, like the eyes of the character and the hoof of the character or the paw of the character, whatever character was, if it was Bolt or Spirit or whoever, I'd mark it with a bit of blue tack. Then I would like drag the movie all the way to that point. Then I'd try and find it again on a new clip because I didn't know a split button existed. So I could put an effect in the middle.
Yeah.
It took me hours to do videos because I had no idea.
Right. Yeah, the edit button makes a world of
The
difference
little
once you
split.
learn about it. Yeah.
Once I found that out, I was like, "Are you fucking joking? I've been this whole time." Anyway,
Yeah. Yeah. I remember the days of LimeWire, downloading the songs, trying to get everything, and
try
in
not to get a
hindsight,
virus.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And once you got started, do you recall any early learning curves, just in terms of, again, like we talked about the technical aspects of things, but also just the sort of performative nature of being on camera and trying to get comfortable doing that?
Yeah, so my transition from AMVs onto being on camera was when a friend of mine from Canada who I'd met doing AMVs with, she'd asked me, she'd said something about needing a video from somebody with a Scottish accent for her class project, and I was like, well, I've got one of those, I could do a quick video for you. So she says what she needed, and I took a video of it and I put it up. And it did really well. It ended up getting a lot of views, and I was like, "Oh, there's a market here for that kind of content." So that's when I sort of left behind my AMV channel, which I'd kind of been doing less and less and less over the years as I grew up and got a real job and that kind of stuff. And then I put this one video up onto like this new channel. I started putting Scottish videos up, Scottish accents, Scottish slang words, all the things that were kind of a little bit popular. The things Scottish people can't say is probably my most famous video that went up.
Right.
And yeah, I started doing all of those, but they get stale very quickly. There's only so many of them you can do. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, it's something that you at least use to explore, again, that sort of creative outlet, especially in the early days of YouTube. I mean, you started doing that, I think, over a decade ago, and
yeah.
that's an eternity in terms of the landscape of the internet. Things have changed so much in terms of content creation and the way things are fed. That's before we even had the concept of an algorithm, sort of feeding
Mhm.
people stuff, on YouTube.
Mhm.
But you managed to garner, a decent audience through it, and a sort of dedicated following of people who are interested in what you were saying and what you were sharing about yourself.
Mhm.
Do you recall any point with the channel where you're like, okay, I feel comfortable enough to keep going with this? Like I can keep this as a sort of consistent hobby to keep going back to.
I don't remember at which point. I just remember that if I wanted the channel to do well, because by God did I want that silver plaque. If I wanted the channel to do well, I had to stick to an upload schedule. And unfortunately, I was working. Well, I was studying and working Monday through Friday, so I'd get up, tend to my brother and sister, take them to school, go to college, come back home, go straight into work until 10 at night, come home, get dinner, shower, get into bed at 1 a.m., wake up early, do it all over again the next day. And then so the weekends were my only days off, and Saturday was usually dedicated to college work and stuff. And so Sunday ended up becoming my specific YouTube day. So I always uploaded one video a week, and it was always on a Sunday. And in that day, I would have to wake up, decide what I was going to record, do a script, shoot it, like get my face, makeup, hair, all that done, shoot it, edit it, and upload it all in that one day. Every single Sunday, that was my whole day taken up with that. And I did that for years. And and like I pulled in a decent audience. I've got more subscribers on that old channel than I do on my current one. But
Mhm.
it was giving me some pocket money, but it wasn't giving me a job. It wasn't
Right.
it wasn't something that I looked at and thought, oh, maybe I could take this full time. There was a moment where the thought crossed my mind, and it was when that thing Scottish people can't say video, when that got picked up by the algorithm and really took off, which was like 6 months into its lifespan, it just took off. When that started happening, I was getting about 300 subscribers a day, you know what I mean, for ages. And so that really boosted my channel. And so I was like, oh, maybe I can do this full time. But I realized very quickly that subscribers doesn't equate in money.
Hmm.
on YouTube. It does not. Like, people that have way less subscribers could be making way more money than somebody that's got loads of subscribers.
Yeah.
It just depends on how they market themselves and how many videos they're putting up. It's the views. The views are what count.
Right.
So yeah, so that was when I was sort of doing that for a long time. And then it started to get staler and staler and staler, and I just wasn't enjoying it. I was dreading waking up on Sundays trying to figure out what the fuck I was going to do.
Hmm.
And I'd always enjoyed reaction content, always. I watched a React channel back in the days of Fine Bros or whatever, they were called back in the day.
Right.
And I dabbled in it on my Scottish channel towards the end. If anybody goes back and checks out, there's a lot of like Scottish people react too. And
Yeah.
I got like a bunch of my friends and family members in on screen to react to various things, because that was the stuff that I was really passionate about.
Yeah, and that's a good way to sort of diversify, the work, the rotation, your own creativity with it, and so that way,
Mhm.
like you said, like it's tough when you feel like the things might get stale, and that sort of kills the motivation within yourself to try to
Yeah,
get to it week to week. But it did sustain for many years, again, from when
it
you
did.
started, over a decade ago, and then you kept the channel going, which took you into the pandemic essentially. And that
Yeah.
was when obviously things changed for like the content creation landscape for everyone as a whole. It flipped everything upside down in various ways. And you made a video at that time stating that it was a bit of a struggle for you, and it was something that you were trying to reconcile with, which a lot of people were at the time as well. Do you recall, again, at that point, just to walk us through what it was like at that point with trying to maintain the channel, but also trying to deal with like just the sort of personal and professional balance of your life at that point?
Yeah, at that point it was really difficult for me because starting with the pandemic stuff, our company went in a restructure where they decided that they didn't want face to face trainers anymore, and that's what my job was. So I basically got told during the big restructure meeting, that they were cutting our numbers from 22 people down to about four.
Hmm.
And I didn't fancy my chances, so I applied for one of the other job roles that came up about creating their digital online training content. And because I'd edited videos and I'd produced stuff for them before, I figured I stood a really good chance at that.
Right.
So I applied for that job role, but I was in the middle of a restructure, worried about losing my home in the middle of the pandemic. I didn't have time for YouTube. I was preparing for interviews, and it took a three-stage interview approach, and that
Right.
dragged out for about nearly a year by the time we got the announcement of the amount of people that were going. And that was like a 6 month process, and then that bled into interviews, and things just drag on, and then it takes a while before you get confirmed and settled into your new role. But I did get the job, which was a peace of mind. And then it was like not long after that had happened that I got the news that my brother had taken his own life,
Hmm.
and that kind of like sent everything crashing down in my world yet again. So it was a lot all kind of hitting me around the same time. And when it came to YouTube, I was putting on weight. I was really unhappy. There was so much going on, and I was like, when you put on that much weight, I feel like, as anybody, but especially you get judged as a woman
Hmm.
on camera. I just felt horrible about myself. So the last thing I wanted to do was be on camera in front of people.
Right.
And I was like, right, this is not happening for me. I don't want to be on camera doing things that I don't even enjoy. So like, I took a break away for a while, for a long time, kind of spent time with the family, dealt with my brother, just worked my standard job. And then that sort of takes us into starting up the new channel and stuff. So I
Right.
don't know if you've got a particular way you want to segue into that, or if you're.
Yeah, I mean that teases us perfectly. Yeah, because that is the sort of transition marker for the going from the original channel to the new channel, the current channel that you have, We Last Reacts. And as you mentioned, that transition is marked by the passing of your brother at the time, that you alluded to in the video, leaving the last channel and then before you start the new one. And again, I don't want to pry into like obviously the details of that experience, but I would like to reflect upon just the transitional period that you were going through at the time. Those things can really stifle, again, like you said, creativity, self, ideas of self-worth, stuff like that. And I just wanted to ask, what were sort of like the just emotions getting into the new channel, and how did that sort of couple with the process that you were going through personally at that time?
Yeah. So I think it's important for this to make sense to keep in mind that I'd always loved watching reaction content and I'd dabbled in it before on my channel, but never fully set foot in it. So with my brother passing and everything, when we took the time and we had the funeral, which was like a month later because there was a whole process because of how we'd done it, um, and there was a lot of family and stuff, a lot of things to arrange. After the funeral and things, I just sort of found myself sort of just not being able to get out of bed quite as much. There's nothing like a good shocking death in the family, I think, for you to rethink your entire life, when you realise that, it is death is it sounds terrible, but death could happen to us at any point, even although his was a choice. um, it's like it can impact our lives, and our lives are so short. There's no point in spending it doing things that aren't making you happy, and that was making me unhappy. So I was sitting there and I was watching YouTube videos, and at the time I had watched Arcane and season one of Arcane, and I loved it. And so YouTube recommended this reaction channel called Not So Average Fangirl.
Hmm.
It was actually an editor who put a mashup of her videos together, reacting to it was Caitlyn and Vi.
Hmm.
And then there was another one for Mel, which were three characters in the show, and so it was a mashup of her reactions that came up, and I watched Dame, and that was the first time after my brother's passing that I'd laughed. And
Hmm.
I remember sitting through in my bed, not dressed, not cleaned, not anything, and just laughing at this, and then feeling inspired by how passionate she was with her reaction content. And that was what I'd always wanted to feel from my content, was that level of excitement and happiness.
Right.
And I remember looking at her going, this is a girl who's absolutely doing what she loves. So naturally went and found her channel, gave her a subscribe, watched all her Arcane reactions, followed her for a little bit on Patreon to help support her. And that was the jumping point for me. I was like, no, you know what? I think I'm going to do this. So I spoke to my friend Sean Vlogs, who's another Scottish YouTuber,
Hmm.
and because he knows a lot more about the algorithm than I do. And I said to him, what I do with my channel? Do I just start a new one? Do I try and transition this channel into the new channel? Like, what I do? And it was his advice ultimately that led me to restarting, like getting a whole new channel and not doing it the other way. Because at the time, and it still is now, the understanding of the algorithm is like, for me, I was doing videos about Scotland, 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 Scotland. So
Right.
that was what my audience had subscribed for. So if I put a YouTube video up of me reacting to The Owl House, which is an animated show on Disney, there's a disconnect. There's a serious disconnect there. So YouTube sends
Right.
your video out to your subscribers, a small portion of your subscribers first. If they don't click on it, it doesn't go anywhere. It
Right.
can't then find another audience, so you just stifles it. And so when he explained all that to me, he was like, if you want the new channel to grow fast, start a new channel. So with his advice, I was like, right, okay, let's do this. So I did my research. I was like, right, for a whole week, I sat and watched a whole bunch of different reaction channels to the types of shows I wanted to do. And
Right.
I was like, right, what's their energy like? What are their comments like? What's their engagement like? How do they edit them? And I started pulling, like, I like how this person did this, I like how this person did that, I don't like this, I don't like that. And I
Hmm.
took all my notes, and then that was what gave me my format and my flow and my editing style and my technique for my reactions.
Yeah.
And then I practiced a couple that never went live. I just sort of did some myself just to see it so I could practice editing it. And then I did my first official one, which was to Stranger Things, because that was huge. That was big at the time. Big regret, man. That show, some of those episodes were like movie length
Oh,
episodes, and
right.
oh my god, they took ages to edit. But
Yeah.
that's what I did. I ended up doing that, and I loved it. It was so good. It was so good. So that was when I fell in love with reaction.
Yeah, I mean it's fascinating. Yeah, just the studious nature that goes into putting that together and trying to research everything beforehand to make sure you're prepared.
That's my ultimate advice to anybody who wants to start doing YouTube: is you can jump in and start floundering, by all means, give it a try. I'm somebody that I like to examine what works, what doesn't work. Where are the pitfalls? What I do about copyright? And that was so I wouldn't get caught out with anything. I would have hated to have sat there and spent hours and hours and hours, or days upon days, on my first reaction video to try and put it up, only for it to get blocked because there was too much copyrighted content in it. So
Right.
doing your research into channels and finding out, right, which ones are successful and which ones aren't. Why are these not successful? Read through the comments. What are people
Mhm.
saying for feedback? Why are these ones successful? How many comments did they get? How many views per subscriber ratio? What kind of
Right.
shows are they watching? What ones are popular? That's what I did. I'm just
Yeah.
an idiot. I'm just like a student like that. I'm like, I like to study on and stuff.
No, I'm the exact same way. I'm very much a person who has to sort of double check everything to make sure before I even start to see how well it will go. But again, you started with Stranger Things, as you mentioned,
Hmm.
for the channel, and you commented on at the time again the emotional weight of that season. It's like, very
Yeah.
heavy in certain aspects, and like how that sort of impacted your, state of mind at the time, getting into the new channel after everything that you'd been through. Again, in hindsight, what kind of impact do you feel that had on your start with the channel, diving into it, and I guess longevity in terms of like, just like, acclimating to it because it was such a heavy sort of subject matter for yourself?
I think now looking back on it, the thing that I found most difficult was how long it took to edit some of those reactions. Certainly, they were very emotional and things, but nothing. It didn't cross too heavily because of the nature of Stranger Things. It didn't cross too heavily into what I experienced with my brother. It was actually another show that I reacted to later that impacted me about that. And I don't know if the raw and cut version is up on my Patreon for this one. I don't think it was. I think it was just my editing team that saw this one, but it was actually over the garden wall.
Mhm.
There's a scene in one of those episodes that is exactly how my brother took his life, and it was that hit harder at home than anything in Stranger Things, because I'm a blubbering mess. Like, it depends on when in a month you catch me. I could be stone cold bitch, or I can be really emotional.
Right.
And so with Stranger Things, some of those episodes just caught me at that right time of the month. So I was blubbering like an idiot, but it never felt too close to home.
Mhm.
It was that over the garden wall episode where I actually had to step away from the reaction for a bit to recover before I could come back and sit down.
Mhm.
Especially given the fact that they're young boys, and it was way too close to home, way too
Right.
close to home.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, again, getting into the subsequent reactions, you started with Gravity Falls and Owl House, and then Over the Garden Wall as well.
Mhm.
Was it a deliberate decision to focus on animation after Stranger Things? Because obviously you mentioned how animation was such a big influence for you growing up. Was it something you said, like, I kind of want to make sure this is sort of like the crux of the channel moving forward?
Yeah, I think I learned a lot doing Stranger Things. I learned that I did not like the long edits. Um, and
Fair.
it wasn't really worth the amount of time and effort I was putting into them. I wasn't really getting the views back that I would like to see.
Mhm.
So animated content, we all know, is usually, not always, but usually shorter. They're
Mhm.
usually like 20, 30-minute long episodes. Not always, but for the most part they are.
Right.
So I knew that my reactions to them would be a lot shorter, and I'd always loved animation. So I was like, well, if I love animation and it's going to be shorter and easier to do, why am I not doing it?
Right.
So that was when I eventually, at the time, I'd seen like a lot of people flying, like a lot of videos popping up about the Owl House, and that was based on my watch of the shows of like Arcane and things. Like, a lot of the stuff that I'd been looking at videos and watching videos about, I'd seen the House popping up all the time. So I was like, well, there's a show that seems to be relevant and current that I've never seen before, and it seems to be doing well for some reactions. So I'll give that a try, and who knows, maybe it'll do well. And so that was when I jumped ship onto that. And then my little brother had always spoken heavily about Gravity Falls,
Right.
and so that was like the key jumping point for Gravity Falls as well, was based on his feedback that it was one of the better animated shows that I could do.
Right. Yeah. And do you have a preference in terms of animation? Again, there's obviously various sorts of art styles and like tones, and at this point, elevated sort of animated series that we have. I guess, what is your sort of preference in terms of, like, I guess, your tone, style, pacing, so on?
I've noticed that I'm a little bit selfish. I like things with older female characters in it. I like things that skews a slightly older audience.
Right.
And I think that was one of the big things that was missing for me from Gravity Falls.
Mhm.
I loved Gravity Falls, but it's one of those shows that I wouldn't rewatch. Whereas The Owl House was one of those shows that I did like, and there's episodes I would rewatch, especially Ida focused episodes. She was my favourite character.
Right.
And then when that transitioned into She-Ra, as soon as I saw She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, the reboot show, I was like, this is what I've been looking for, because that's what made me fall in love with Arcane, was characters like Vi and Caitlin and stuff, these sort of older, more complicated female characters. And I didn't realise it's probably because it was something that had been heavily missing from my childhood. I mean, I had As Told by Ginger, and I loved that show. And it's definitely, looking back, one of my favourite animated show, but there wasn't that many mostly female focused shows that I watched growing up. They were
Right.
mostly either mostly male focused or a mix.
Right.
And so I think that's when I started leaning more heavily into that side of things. And so those tend to be the shows that I enjoy more. And I'm getting that with DuckTales right now. Like, I love DuckTales, I do. But the older characters are my favourite, and they're sometimes not always present. You know what I mean? So, like,
Right.
Scrooge is one of my favourites, and Della, when she appears later and stuff, like, I really like her. So, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, getting to the again the reactions themselves, you mentioned obviously this lots of studying that you did in terms of like just like the pacing, the editing, stuff like that. Was there a bit of a transition or a learning curve for you? Again, going from the shorter form reactions that you did on the previous channel to now the sort of long form reactions. I've spoken with this for a few channels, saying how it can be it can be exhausting, it can be creatively or mentally sort of, a sort of marathon to be engaged and on that whole time. I guess what was that sort of transition like for you?
Yeah, I think in the beginning it was a lot easier because I felt like I had so much energy for it and I was really enjoying the stuff I was reacting to, and I still do. I've just got had a lot of stuff happening in my personal life behind the scenes that has been dwindling some of my energy away. So if people go and watch like my first reaction to the Hell of a Boss episode with Baby Stolas, the energy in that is off the charts compared to some of my more recent reactions. And I hope to return to that energy one day because it's where it's where I'm really invested in a show or something. Whereas now I'm finding I'm a bit more lethargic in some of my reactions because I feel so drained with real life stuff. Early days it was relatively easy because I was so inspired by other reactors that I really enjoyed and watched relatively all the time as well, like my now girlfriend, Elijah, not so average fangirl, who inspired me in the beginning. Don't ask how the fuck that happened. That's a journey. Um, but yeah, so her arcane reactions were what heavily inspired me, and she is so energetic in that. So I guess I just absorbed some of the energy a little whilst I was starting the new venture. And now it's more about like I still have some of that energy, but now I focus it more into the things that I think I can bring to the table that make me a little bit different, which is like camera angles, lighting,
Mhm.
sort of try to break things and media down from that aspect because that was all the stuff I studied at college.
And yeah, through the reactions themselves, through the various shows that you covered, you managed to gain a new audience. You managed to gain like some traction with the channel now. Was there a point? I guess again, kind of harkening back to the previous channel, was there a point with this new channel where you kind of felt like, okay, this is going somewhere. Like this is sustainable. I'm like picking some traction with this.
Yeah, I realized that your first 5,000 subscribers on YouTube are your easiest to get. If you hit the ground running and you really go for it and you're consistent and you upload well, those first 5,000 are fast
Mhm.
approaching. It probably, mind you, your first 100 is always really difficult to get. It probably helped as well that I was coming from my last channel. So I did put a little announcement up saying that I was hopping over to this new one. And even though the content was very different, like a couple of hundred people came with me. So your first like couple of hundred might be difficult to get, but between that mark and the 5,000 mark, it grew really fast. It's like YouTube was really trying to promote my videos and help them find the right audience. Yeah, so that like first initial growth period was really easy for me to get. And then after that, it kind of started to taper off and it became more about being consistent,
Mhm.
finding that audience, and accepting that when you decide what you're reacting to, for the first season of that show, you'll get your audience, but then it'll taper off slightly and you
Right.
won't really get that many more people. So if you commit yourself to a really long show, like recently I did Steven Universe, which I loved, that is a very long show. That's a very long show. Season one is like 50 something episodes alone, and there's 5 seasons, a movie, and a spin off, which
Right.
I'm in the middle of the spin off right now. So it's a very long show. When you commit to something of that length, you have to realize that there's going to come a point where your audience is going to stagnate slightly.
Mhm.
You're not really going to get, you might get like a couple, but you're not going to have that big increase that you're going to do when you first start a brand new thing on your channel and you bring in that brand new audience for
Right.
that show. And that's okay, you just have to accept that. So it's always good to then think about how many videos you're putting out, how many reactions you're doing, and how do you juggle it so that you're not too long in that stagnant water. You're not swimming too long in that stagnant pool with three really long form shows that none of them, all of them have stopped bringing in an audience for you, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I spoke with another channel, Centel. He was talking about, the balance between, loyalty and reach, the idea of like trying to like, find a new audience, but also stay loyal and build loyalty from the people who came to for you for a specific reason or a specific show.
Yep.
And, or it's been a journey, with the various shows that you've covered over that time. You've covered so many. And the unique thing about each one, particularly in animation, that I found is that each one has such a really passionate fandom. There's like they have such passionate fan bases that latch on to and appreciate people who want to enjoy the shows that they love. I guess what has it been like for you learning about those different fandoms and sort of being engaged with them through the channel?
Yeah, I think it helped that my first two shows were Gravity Falls and The Owl House, and some of those audience correlate to each other. They kind of bleed over each other slightly.
Mhm.
I think just because Dana Terrace was heavily involved in both shows, and and stuff like that, and it was that kind of like similar quality of production. I think you could see across the two shows, although they are vastly different. So I had a bit of an audience bleed there. So that was my way of sort of staying loyal to them. And then when those shows started coming to an end, the first thing I started doing when I recognized that was, what do you guys want to see next? Like putting up
Mhm.
these polls, asking my audience to start giving me suggestions, which we do like. We just don't like unsolicited, asks of shows. So
Right.
don't come into a comment for a Steven Universe reaction and just put, when are you going to watch Dragon Ball Z? Don't do that. That's annoying. Like your comment's going to get removed. Like we don't listen to that. But when we ask you guys, hey, usually in our community posts, like, hey, I'm getting to the end of the show, let me know below what you want to see. And
Mhm.
so your audience will always then come in and they'll give you the next recommendation. And audiences tend to bleed, not always, but they tend to like, if they've liked one cartoon, there's probably another one that's a little close to their heart, or they've started to like, and usually if it's similar enough, that audience transfers. So for me, the Gravity Falls audience kind of transferred into the DuckTales. That was their transition.
Right.
The Owl House transitioned up into Shira, which transitioned up into Steven Universe.
Mhm.
That was that kind of linear progression. And so that's a way I've been able to still stay loyal to them whilst bringing in a brand new audience at the same time, I've found.
Yeah, yeah. It's like a baton pass just between
Yeah.
one another to go from one show to the next. But I
Yep.
do want to take a moment to comment on one specific series that you did watch,
Mhm.
which was Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, which you watched with Elijah
Yeah.
on the channel, I
True.
think last year. And I just wanted to comment on that because I, love that show a lot. I was introduced to it by my partner at the time,
Ah.
like 2 years ago, because she was a big fan of the web series when it had come out, the ones that you had watched. And we even have the guys right here.
Oh my
These
god, so
three.
you can. I'm just seeing them now. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It's such a unique series. And I don't know, when I was going through the channel and catching up on everything that you had done, that was when I was like so surprised because a lot of people have seen it or reacted to it specifically. I guess what was the impetus behind diving into that reaction, and what was it like sharing that experience with Elijah, because you bounced back and forth between your channels for it?
Yeah, we did. It was one of those ones that I think people had fake recommended to me just because I'm very squeamish. And so the people that have been on my channel for long enough, they know that about me. Anytime there's like gore or something on the screen or something happens, that's when you get the best, most guttural reaction from me. There
Right.
was a sequence in Gentry Chow recently, the show that I did recent, and it was like the parents were making these horrible squelching noises, and I had to like physically crawl out of the room. I could barely stand the noise. It was,
Right.
so my audience know me very well, so I think when they were recommending that show to me, they were being little shits, and they were like, I think you'll really like this show, and I'm like, well, I'm going to need emotional support. So because I'd known it had been on, I knew it was an unhinged show, I didn't know how much. So I like reached out to Elijah and I was like, hey, there's this really short thing. We can make this like our fun collaboration. I really don't want to do it by myself. Please help me. Please hug me. I'm scared. Was basically how I positioned it to her. And so, she was like, okay, let's do this. So we went in and we did it together. And it was a lot of fun doing that with her, actually. I think that was the only show that we've reacted to episodes together, but that was the only show start to finish, the little web series that we did together, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah, it was a lot of fun to watch, especially bouncing back again between the two of you. And you watched the original web series, so I don't know if you're aware that they made a full TV series out of it a couple
Oh,
years
I'm
ago.
aware.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, I'm aware.
I don't think that's maybe on the docket for the channel because it's again, it goes pretty hard, similar to the web series.
We'll see. Maybe one day.
Yeah, maybe one day. But yeah, getting into obviously your relationship with Elijah. You're both reactors, as you mentioned. She was an inspiration for you to get into the channel itself. You jokingly mentioned don't ask about it, but I am curious
It's valid.
how did you two meet? I'm really curious if what the lore is there.
Oh, it's so hard because obviously you don't want to encourage people out there that have like that are fans of people to like go
Absolutely,
after them in that
100%.
sense.
Yes.
So like the best, if you ever want to work with somebody or get to know somebody properly, don't come at it, never come at it as a fan, because you will only ever be a fan, right? You need to build yourself up enough to be on their level. And that's where you approach it. That's where you come in at it. So, like when I was starting early days with my channel, I didn't reach out to her. I left like a comment on two or some of her videos. That was it. But that was just, great reaction, blah blah blah. Um, and I joined her Patreon for a little while to say a further thank you, but I didn't reach out to her on it. I just joined it for a few months and then stopped again. And so, there was a period of time where I wasn't watching her content because I was reacting to the Owl House at the same time she was, and she was a lot further ahead, so I didn't want to get spoiled.
Mhm.
So I'd kind of like her channel had fallen to the bottom of my recommendations. But I remember I'd made friends with Morgan Reacts.
Mhm. Right.
They had reached out to me on my the Owl House shows, and when a bigger channel than you or a big channel comments, you get the notification straight through your studio app. So
Mhm.
that's how I knew it was somebody with a lot of followers. Was Morgan's comments on all my videos were constantly pinging up. Them and Tomato Sauce, actually, the two of them were commenting on my Owl House videos. So I'd reply back to them specifically because it would always ping up on my phone. And then me and Morgan spoke backwards and forwards in a little comment chain on one of my Owl House videos, and eventually I was just like, "Hey, have you got Discord or something?" Like, I can't remember how. I think it was Discord. I was like, "You got like something else we could talk on?" So we eventually got in touch with each other. We exchanged numbers, and the two of us like were chatting about everything, all of it. We became really fast friends.
Right.
And then at one point, and this was maybe like 9 months of speaking to them or something, they mentioned Elijah's name. And me being the fangirl that I used to be, I was
Right.
like, oh, well, but I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to say, I'm not going to play it cool, play it cool. So I didn't let them know that I was a big fan or anything. I was just like, oh, Elijah, oh, that's cool, And then I found out, then they started telling me a bit about all the games that they would play together, and Elijah would stream it, and they had their own little group, their own little crew. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, cool. And in the back of my head, I'm thinking one day it'd be really nice to be part of that, but I'm not going to push it. I'm not going to push it. So
Right.
me and Morgan continued our friendship for a while, and I'd ask occasionally, and they were still in touch with her, still in touch with her. But then Elijah needed help making a Discord server.
Mhm.
For her page at the time, she wanted it to be a public Discord server. And I had a lot of background and experience in Discord servers because I had run, I don't know if you know the anime Bleach,
All right. Yeah.
but I'd run an online podcast for that for years in
Oh
lockdown
wow.
with some friends. And as far as I'm aware, we were the biggest and longest running Bleach podcast in
Wow.
existence out there. Not to brag, we didn't fully finish covering the Thousand Year Blood War. We got about halfway through that, and then we all just ended up going separate ways. But we did do the whole show up till then.
Right.
Um, but anyway, so I'd already made a massive Discord server for all of that going on and all of the Bleach stuff. So I'd had a lot of experience. And so Morgan knew that. And Morgan was asking me questions and then texting Elijah and then texting Elijah's questions back to me. And eventually they were like, I've had enough of this, and just threw the two of us into a group chat together. And I
Yeah.
will never forget it. It was a Monday evening at 4:30 p.m. that I got thrown into this Discord chat because I was getting ready to leave work and I was about to go to the gym. And I'll never forget getting thrown into this Discord group chat with Elijah and freaking out. Internal gay panic off the charts.
Right.
Just absolutely like, this is like somebody that I'd majorly looked up to that had helped me out a lot with my brother, and she didn't even know it. So,
Right. Yeah.
and inspired my whole channel. Like, it was such a huge deal. So, but I was very cool about it. I was like, yeah, Morgan says she needed some help. What can I do?
Mhm.
So she put me to work in her server, and I gave her loads of feedback. I helped her out, tweak it, loads of stuff. And then we just sort of kept the group chat there. And I tried not to message in it. I waited for her to message in. She would come in and comment
Yeah.
and say something, I'd reply back. And then after a few times of her doing it, I'd message in and then she'd reply. And then it became a point of like, we should game together. It was me and Morgan were playing Minecraft together
Mhm.
one night, and we had our headsets on, we were chatting to each other, and we let Elijah know, like Elijah had asked a question, and we says, oh, we're on a call together, and she was like, is this call exclusive, can I join? And I'm freaking out. I am like full scale panic. Oh my God. And Morgan's like, yeah, sure, that's fine. So next thing I know, Elijah's on the call with us, and she's just chilling whilst we're playing Minecraft. And I'm trying not to die in Minecraft because it's been years since I'd played it.
Right.
And Morgan's coming to save me at every iteration, chasing away the zombies. And Elijah was laughing at all the stuff that was happening, all the Discord she could hear. And then after that, it just became a thing that we would sort of game together and chat together, and
Mm.
then that just progressed into flirting. And then eventually, I worked up the courage enough to ask her out on an online date. And even in my head back then, I was like, okay, it's just a friendship thing. It's
Right.
not a real date. But for
Yeah.
her, she was like full on real date. You know, she had no idea until like a couple of months into our relationship that her videos had even meant that much to me
Yeah.
before I actually opened up about it all, you know. And I didn't want to come across like that weirdo that it's not a weirdo. It's just I didn't want to come across like that fan. You
Yeah.
know, I didn't want her to think of me as a fan. I wanted her to think of me on mutual terms before.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I 100% get that. I 100% advocate. Yes, like the fan, inspiration to like, level, definitely respect that, of course. And but you, like you said, you worked your way up, so you were basically a peer at that point.
Yes,
You weren't just a
I was
fan first.
almost on level with her, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and you definitely earned, just like the opportunity to like you speak with her as a friend and as a colleague. So that's where it develops naturally into like a relationship. And so like I think that's a really beautiful story. And yeah, I just wanted to you mentioned it. I wanted to ask you, did you eventually convey yes the sort of importance that she had to you like as you eventually when you were going through your time?
Yeah, yeah, especially because recently, you know, I've just had another family member pass away a few days ago. I'd said to you just before we came on the call, because he
Mhm.
very graciously moved us back. And ever you guys, you've no idea, he very graciously moved it back. So thank you.
Sure.
Um, but yes, you know, she's been hugely impactful for me. So I've opened up to her a couple of times when things with this particular family member were not going very well, especially last year. I'd hinted at it before, but I'd never fully told her how much
Hmm.
until like kind of last year and stuff. But she and I both agree, like the two of us have spoken extensively about it. And right now we poke fun. She'll be like, "Oh, but you were a fan," you know. She'll poke fun at it.
Right.
But you know, with the two of us are in agreement that if I had tried to approach her as a fan, we would not be together. We wouldn't
Right.
be together today. Doesn't matter how big my channel would have gotten, I still would have been. I maybe would have been friends with her, but I
Hmm.
still would have been the fan first,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So I feel like to anybody out there, if you ever want to, especially if you want to work with somebody, because I would say dating, don't think about that. Because I
Hmm.
never thought about that with Elijah. I just wanted to be a friend.
Right.
If you ever want to build up a professional relationship with somebody, be it a friend, co worker, whatever, you need to build yourself up first. You need to build yourself up to be that kind of person, you know?
Mhm.
And there's a few mods and admins now that I would absolutely consider friends as well. They were with me when I first started my channel, and even the ones that have joined, you know, like Sam is a great example. Sam's another reactor who done a podcast, had me on his podcast and stuff back in the day.
Right.
He's excellent at what he does, and he's built himself up as one of my moderators now as well. And now I game with him often. You know, I
Yeah.
would consider him a friend. If he was like, "Hey, do you want to go get food together? We're at this convention," I'd be like, "Fuck yeah, let's do it," you know? So yeah, there's ways to do it without it being too creepy, too clingy, too full on. Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And yeah, it's you have to put in the work to really earn, that person's time and,
Trust.
energy and trust.
Hmm.
Yeah, I've, been doing this, work for yeah, about 8 years now working in the reaction space. And I started as a fan, just a fan of everyone's
Yeah.
channels. And I was like, I had no connection to anyone. But over time I got to know people and I do call a lot of them close friends now because I can text them. I have, them on personal messages, stuff like that. And yes, it's about respecting their time and their trust enough to make sure that you earn that from themselves.
Yeah.
And yeah, but the stuff that you have shared with Elijah through the channel on and off, in your time, you go to a lot of conventions. It's really, just like fun to watch and see again, the sort of like, collaborative nature of that, but also it's obviously a relationship that you two have. Um, I think there's a really great, shorthand that you can have working with someone who is works in the same field as you. I know that because my partner is my channel partner as well. We work on this together. We worked at a company together for a couple of years. We met through a movie trivia game show that she was a competitor on. I was the editor for it. So like we have a lot of shared sort of like commonality in our
Mhm.
work. For yourself, for the channels and the reaction work itself, I guess how has that been between the two of you being able to share, that shorthand and be able to share, thoughts and insights between one another in terms of like your work and like just have that be something that you can have between yourselves?
Oh, I can't even put words into how important it is. Like, it's very YouTube is a very hard job to do solo, even if you're the only person on your channel. You
Mhm.
want to build up a community of a team of people around you who can help support you in different ways. And for me, like obviously I've got Elijah, I've got Morgan, still one of my close friends, Timota, we've got a bunch. And we've got our own little group now that we do various things with. And for us, it's like being able to have that conversation. Okay, so you're starting this show, let me know how you get on. How does it do for you view wise? How does it, like how's the editing, how's the copyright blocks, how's the strike process? Like is it a very tetchy show that you've got to be really careful with, or is it more lenient? How do the views do in terms of like how much work takes to go into the videos? So we're always helping each other, and giving each other feedback. And one of us will try a show, it does well, great, the other person picks up. Like that happened very recently. Like Elijah started Ruby. She
Mhm.
finally bit the bullet. Everybody had been recommending Ruby to her. She finally started it and
Right.
she fell in love. And then when she came to me, she was like, "You are going to love this show." I knew I was going to love it because she knows me very well. And
Yeah.
so when I started it, which was like I'm like 3 or 4 volumes or seasons behind her, and I do love it. It's perfect. It's exactly the kind of thing I want in my shows.
Right.
And so yeah, it's really important. And then obviously we help lift each other up a little bit too when we're doing various collaborations and reacted shows together, or we'll promote each other's content. So I know Morgan does this too. We do it with Morgan as well.
Mm.
We name drop each other. We bring each other's channel names up when we're talking about each other in our reactions and our videos. I think Morgan just did it recently with the newest Amazing Digital Circus video,
Right.
where they got to a scene and they were like, "Oh, the lighting in this Moscow's going to be going mental about the lighting,"
Yeah.
and they brought in the little my channel name and everything for people to go and check it out. And true
Yeah.
enough, that exact scene, I spent about fucking 10 minutes trying to break down the lighting in that scene. So yeah, so it's nice. It's really nice to have collaborations there, and in that way, when something goes wrong, you've got a whole bunch of people ready to jump in and help.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
it's not just us. I've also got Mikey Venture I speak to regularly. We've got Diego, which is Darkly on YouTube. So Ever Dreams as well. Like we've got a little community of us reactors as well who regularly check in and feedback with each other.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, that collaborative nature, again, just shouting people out, popping them in your videos, it helps build a space, makes the space feel like a sort of, cohesive, ecosystem of
Hmm.
people, that, work together, breathe together. That's why I would love to see, that sort of connectivity and synergy between channels,
Yeah.
because it makes people feel, again, as you said, it can be very isolating to do this type of work, especially if you don't have a good support group. So yeah, having that is such an instrumental, part of the longevity of keeping the channel
Hmm.
going.
Yeah.
And yeah, over the time with the channel, you've obviously gone through a lot. But I guess what would you say has been the most consistent obstacle that you've faced with it?
The YouTube copyright program blocks.
Fair.
They're so inconsistent. I think
Right.
if they were more consistent, it would be fine. I've definitely found that turning the audio of my show I'm reacting to down has helped massively in how many blocks that I get given. But
Yeah.
sometimes it could be like sometimes you get none, and then you get like every other video, and it's just like and Disney are the worst. You put like a 3 second clip of a Disney song in for a joke, and they claim your whole 1 hour long video. They
Right.
get the revenue of that whole 1 hour long video because you decided to use 5 seconds of their music.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm stubborn. Sometimes I'm like, well, dude, it stays because it's funny. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, that could be definitely one of the most challenging. That and dealing with assholes online. Like I'm very good that I've got a really good moderating team around me, so they go in and they clear out most of the idiots in my comments. But
Hmm.
I mean, like Elijah was reading out some of my comments to me today on her latest Amazing Digital Circus video, and you sit there and you just shake your head. You're like, are these guys even watching the same thing we are? Where they're like, you're reading too much into this, and we were like, that's the point of the show. The
Yeah.
show wants us to read into things.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it's definitely a hurdle that I think never quite goes away. The comments.
Mm, yes, for
um,
sure.
but also, likewise, over the time of the channel, how have you personally grown? Do you feel?
Oh, loads. Loads. I don't edit my videos as much anymore, so I've not grown much as an editor. Actually, my skills have probably started to dip because I've got people that do that for me.
Right.
Um, but in terms of like knowing what will do well, what won't, and kind of learning to get ahead on certain various projects and stuff, and planning and organizing myself, I've gotten very good at it, and I've had to get even better at it over the course of this year because I don't know if you know this, but me and Elijah have started our own production company, and
Wow.
we're now going down the indie animation route. So we've got a pilot that's in production right now. The pilot episode itself is almost completely fully storyboarded.
Oh, wow.
Um, we're
Congrats.
approaching. Thank you. We did you watch Amazing Digital Circus? Have you
I've seen some
had
of it.
like
I've not watched the
some of it?
entirety of it. Yeah, yeah.
So the voice actor that plays Ragatha on that, they're our producer, so they're
Oh,
helping
cool.
us right now send offers out because we decided to go SAG. Which, if you're ever wanting to do anything indie, don't go SAG,
Right.
please. For the love of everything that is holy in this world, don't go SAG.
Right.
It's not just paperwork, it's a lot of money, especially for an indie show.
Yeah.
We're very lucky that our channels are doing really well, and the two of us have always loved cartoons. We've
Mhm.
always loved telling stories, and we were like, it's time for us to put our money where our mouth is. We're constantly berating other people's writing and
Yeah.
their shows. Time to put our money where our mouth is and give it a try ourselves. And we're learning a lot. And even after the pilot comes out, I'm hoping people will notice a substantial difference between the pilot and the next episode, because between even just getting up to the storyboard, we have learned lots about how it means to write and produce a show.
Mhm.
But we're in that process right now where our producer Amanda, literally, I've got like 14 notifications from our producer right now in Discord. I can see them right now. They're
Right.
sending out the offers to various talents. So we've got two big voice acting names. And they've been in shows that we've watched and reacted to on our channels, not indie, but proper production shows.
Wow.
We were
Nice.
approaching two of them, and two of them have agreed that they want to be on it. So we're just waiting for them to formally
Great.
accept their offer. So we're going through their agents, we're doing it all correct.
Yeah.
And then we've put out a casting call for one of the characters. It's not a public casting call, so before everybody starts inundating us with your voice reels, it's not that yet.
Right.
Um, that's not to say that those won't come, so watch the space. So make sure if anybody's watching this that is interested, follow us on our Dragonfly Creation socials, because that's where we'll put up any public asks in casting.
Good to
But yeah,
know.
that's a process that we're at right now. We're just cleaning up a couple of these storyboards, a couple of loose ends, and we've definitely gone down the Gravity Fall route, and the being inspired by Gravity Falls and some other companies as well, like Pokemon, and
Mm.
we've been hiding little hints and things and various character reveals and sheets and little hidden messages, and people
Yeah.
have been having to work out like what this means, what's coming up, and yeah, so it's been a lot of fun. But we're well into production. We're hoping that the pilot will drop early next year,
Makes sense.
maybe
Yeah.
spring, maybe mid to late spring.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, again, congrats. That sounds like a lot of work, but it sounds like the next step, the next evolution of like what
Hmm.
this whole endeavor has been like for you. So I'm really,
Yeah,
really happy to hear it.
thank you.
Yeah, I won't pry too much about the detail. I'm super curious, but I don't want to spoil anything too much about it just yet.
You could pry a little if you want. Don't you worry.
But I'm also just curious. Again, beyond any monetary or financial value within the channel, what would you say is the most rewarding aspect of the channel for you?
Is the networking that we've been able to do. Like being able to go out to dinner with Vivian Madrano herself. She and her team invited, I say her team, she and some of her voice acting talent had invited us to dinner, and
Wow.
we regularly go up to some of them and they speak to us. They give us their opinions, their advice. And just getting that recognition on their face when we bump into them at conventions and stuff, where they go, "Oh, it's you guys." It's really nice.
Yeah.
To the point now that we feel like we can approach some of them from we're building ourselves up, just like I did with Elijah, to be able to meet on mutual ground. We're kind of doing that with a lot of the talent that we want to bring into our production as well.
Right.
So we'd be building ourselves up and stuff, but that's definitely like the most fun part, I think, for us, is the networking opportunities it has brought us, and then being able to attend conventions and meet people and see the fans as well. Like it's so easy to have people write a nice comment about you on YouTube, but when you go to a convention and it's a fan that's standing there going, "Hey, I watch you guys, you are great, can I take a picture?" It's so unreal, and it's really nice.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And again, that's congrats to you, because that's something that you absolutely earn, the opportunity to be there, to have that recognition on both ends from the fans and like the talent that you are a fan of yourself. So again, so congrats on, I guess, the amount of work that you put into getting there. I know
Thank you.
what goes into it. We do have our final questionnaire that we give to everyone here on the channel. Just 10 questions down the line for you. The first question being, just what is your favorite TV show of all time?
Oh, fuck. Great question. Oh, that's really good. There's so many from like my history. I would say right now, like in this moment, I really like the She-Ra reboot when I did that on my channel. So I'd probably have to give it to that. There was a special place in my heart for that show.
Of course, yeah, it's a great one. Next one is, what is your favorite film of all time?
This one's weird, but I really love The Day After Tomorrow.
Oh, the science fiction
Yeah,
ecological
don't
disaster one.
ask me why. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the first How to Train Your Dragon, not the other two, but the first one, I really love that as a movie. I think it's great. But yeah, for some reason, The Day After Tomorrow, that movie just has always stuck with me. I really like that movie.
That's a unique pick, but I respect it.
Thank you.
Their question is, what stresses you out?
Family stuff happening behind the scenes, because it definitely impacts my work.
Absolutely. Yeah, a very fair answer. Firstly, what helps you relax?
Ooh, spending time with my girlfriend, spending time with Elijah, gaming with friends online. Um, Sometimes even just getting a good bitch out, like about the YouTube algorithm or something, like
Yeah,
sometimes just venting frustrations with fellow content creators can feel so good. And
right.
then that's, yeah, that.
Yeah. Just getting it out to people who
Yeah,
understand. Yeah, for sure.
yeah, yeah.
What is a hobby or passion you have outside of TV and film?
Ooh, now you're asking. I guess gaming could be classed as one.
Mm.
I do enjoy
Yeah.
gaming. I wouldn't say I'm particularly good at it. I prefer the cozy games. I'm loving Tiny Bookshop right now. It's so much fun.
Oh
So
yeah.
adorable.
Yeah, I've seen a few of those streams going on right now. So yeah, it's
Yeah, it's
definitely a
so cute.
good, comfy game.
Yeah, it is.
What fictional character do you relate to or just care deeply about?
Vi, season one in particular,
Mhm.
season one of Vi from Arcane, because I grew up in a rough place. I didn't fight as much as she did, but I got jumped a lot when I was kids, and
Yeah.
my friend got stabbed, and I grew up in a really rough area. So I grew up in poverty too. So from her upbringing, I totally understand. She had one sister and technically like two. You could count Echo as a third brother.
Right.
I have one sister and three brothers.
Mhm.
She lost a couple of her brothers. I lost one of mine. There
Right.
was just so much that Vi, especially season one Vi, had gone through, but was still standing and fighting, that I can definitely relate to.
Absolutely, that makes sense. What is your guilty pleasure, show or film?
Oh, my guilty pleasure film is A Cinderella Story with Hilary Duff. I can't. I love it. So don't ask me why. I absolutely love that so much. Show, I would probably be Shira or something. Maybe even Steven Universe, because that is a very good comfort show too.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No judgment here for Cinderella story for sure.
Yeah, so good. It's so shittily good.
What show or film gave you your favorite reaction experience with the channel?
Oh, I mean, I feel like I got the most reactions out of the Owl House, especially when I got later. I did love reacting to Shira, but probably the one that got, other than the finale of the Owl House, I've probably seen the Mona. If anybody
Mm-hmm.
has not seen that movie, holy shit, it's a lot.
Fantastic.
Like, don't
Yeah.
just go and watch it. Just don't look anything up. Just go and watch it. But I don't think I've ever sobbed so hard at anything on my channel ever, except for that movie.
Yeah. It's a fantastic
Mhm,
film.
mhm.
What show or film do you wish you could erase from your memory and react to for the first time on camera?
I wish I could do season one of Arcane, because I never got a chance to
All
do
right.
it.
Yeah.
So I'd like started my channel after I'd already seen it. I would love to have done that as a reaction.
Yeah.
But I would also love to wipe my mind to Shira just so I could re-experience that again. That was great.
Yeah. Just do one more time.
Yeah.
And the final question here: what advice would you give to your past self when you first started the channel?
Honestly, I wish I could go back to my wee Scottish last channel self and say, stop it, just pursue the reaction that you want to do. So I could start it sooner. But if we're talking just this channel, I would probably tell her, ditch Stranger Things, start on the Owl House earlier. That'd be my feedback.
Yeah, a bit of an easier start.
Yeah, much easier. Get into the stuff you're actually going to be known for as
Right.
early as you can.
That makes sense. Mosco, thank you so much for being here.
Thank
It's
you.
really great to get to know you more. And again, just earn your respect and your time
Thank you.
in this space. Where can we find you on YouTube, online social media, anywhere otherwise?
Yeah, so on YouTube, I go by We Last React. You can find me there. If you want to follow along with our show that we're making, the YouTube channel for that, which we have a small teaser preview for, is Dragonfly Creations, and that's dragon.fly.creations. You can put that in and it will show up. Those two are the main two that I will promote for just now.
Great. Yeah, we'll have links to those below for sure. You can find me at Necronic across social media. You can find us at the Reactorverse across social media as well. You'll find links to our Patreon, Discord down below, and we'll catch everyone on the next episode.
See yas.